Hi students, today I am going to discuss the important topics in the two chapters. I will fly, a very beautiful speech by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and a very important profile in your first block, Quest for a Theory of Everything by Kitty Gale Ferguson. This is just an attempt to help you to revisit the topics in your first year textbook. Here the topics are I Will Fly and Quest for a Theory of Everything. I hope that this session will reinforce what you studied in your first year, and this will definitely help you to score more marks in your exams. So the chapter I Will Fly, a famous speech delivered by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I have already told you the first block speaks about so many important personality traits which help us to become a successful person in our life. It also speaks about some values which we have to uphold in our life, which will help us to become perfect human beings. The second chapter, I Will Fly, also deals with some of these traits. Apart from those traits, it highlights a very important aspect, the importance of being unique. We should be unique to become a successful person, a great human being. At the beginning of the chapter, at the beginning of the speech, he says, the most powerful resource on the earth is the ignited mind of the youth. And that is the reason why he says, a youth should not be afraid of his future. A youth should not be afraid of the future, because the ignited mind of the youth is the most powerful resource on the earth, under the earth, and above the earth. Another interesting factor about our nation is that 50% of our total population is below 25 years of age. 50% of India's population is below 25. That means we are an amazingly young nation. If we are able to ignite the minds of these youngsters, if we are able to ignite these minds with education, with skills, with employability, probably the next few decades will be ours. Then in his speech, he narrates a particular incident, a particular experience. Once he went to a village in Kerala. The name of that village is Paravur in Ernakulam district, to inaugurate a program called Shastrayan, which means propagation of science. The mission was Shastrayan. It was a mission, and the mission was to help youngsters, prepare youngsters to be eligible to become doctors, engineers, qualified managers, scientists, and civil servants. To prepare 2000 students from various schools in that village to be eligible to become scientists, doctors, engineers, qualified managers, and civil servants. This would in turn empower 2000 families. Thereby, it would empower the village, the society. So he addressed an audience consisting of 5,000 students and their parents. He delivered a speech on the topic Science Empowers Nation. So we all know how science empowers a nation. The various scientific advancements in the field of agriculture, in the field of information technology, in the field of research, in the field of medicine, all these empower nation. All these scientific advancements in various sectors empower nation, we all know about it. And the topic was Science Empowers Nation. After his speech, after his address, so many hands were raised to ask questions to that great man. Due to the lack of availability of time, he gave opportunities to some 12 students, and he selected those 12 students randomly. And he shared one of the questions raised by a student who was a typical representative of Indian youth, because he was very nervous. The young boy shared his problem. He was very nervous, he was very shy, and he couldn't ask any question in his classroom, he couldn't talk to his teachers, even to his friends. He was very nervous, and he could be considered as a typical representative of Indian youth. Most of the youngsters in our country, in our society, they are very nervous, they are very shy, they are unable to express their ideas freely, they are unable to come forward. He shared his problems with the audience, with the great man Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and he asked that question. He wanted to become an engineer. He wanted to become a marine engineer, wanted to become the captain of a ship, and he asked to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam whether he would be able to become the captain of a ship. The dignitaries on the dais as well as the audience, they looked at Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. They looked at him for his valuable suggestion, for his valuable piece of advice. He didn't give any direct piece of advice. Instead of that, he said that it was one of the toughest questions that he ever received from a student. He said that it was not the problem of that particular student, it was the problem of most of the students in our country. So it is a problem. He did not give a direct solution, he did not give a direct piece of advice. Instead of that, he recited a few lines from a very famous poem written by the 13th century Persian Sufi poet Jalaluddin Rumi. The lines go like this: I am born with potential. I am born with goodness and trust. I am born with ideas and dreams. I am born with greatness. I am born with confidence. I am born with wings. So I am not meant for crawling. I have wings. I will fly. I will fly and fly. So here he echoes the words of the famous 13th century Persian Sufi poet Jalaluddin Rumi. He says, we all are born with the potential. We all are born with greatness, trust, ideas, dreams. We are born with confidence. We are born with wings. That means we are not meant for crawling. We are meant to fly. We are not worthless creatures. We are not reptiles that are meant to crawl. We are born with wings. We are meant to fly. Every individual is born with tremendous potential. Every individual is born with ideas, dreams, confidence, trust, greatness, goodness, etc. So he says, it is the responsibility of each and every individual to step forward, to come forward, and to realize his true potential. And towards the end of his speech, he says, or he makes an exhortation to the youngsters: be unique. We should be unique. We should not blindly imitate others. He says, even though each and every youngster wants to be unique, the world around him is conspiring against to make him somebody else or everybody else. If he scores low marks in his examination, then parents, teachers, elders, they will give that piece of advice to that youngster. Why can't you be like the toppers in the classroom? If he thinks in a divergent way, in a creative way, in a different way, again the parents come up with this piece of advice. Why can't you be like everybody else in the society? So the world conspires against him to make him somebody else or everybody else. World does not recognize, appreciate his individuality. World does not acknowledge his creativity. World does not want to admire his innovativeness. So this is a serious problem, and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam says, we have to fight the hardest battle. The youngsters have to fight the hardest battle. Never give up. Fight until they reach that destined place, a unique you. So this is a very important speech by Dr. Kalam, which exhorts the youngsters to be unique. It exhorts the youngsters to pursue their dreams in a unique way. So we can expect certain questions from this particular chapter. The questions that you can expect are, the first one, prepare a speech, a motivational speech to inspire your juniors, to inspire your classmates, etc. before their public examination. That is one question that you can expect from this area. Another one, to prepare a motivational speech on the importance of being unique. The third question that you can expect from this area is to prepare an email to be sent to one of your friends sharing the views of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So these are some of the questions that you can expect from this particular chapter. You can find the format of an email on the screen. You can also find the various points that you have to keep in our mind to prepare a speech. These two slides can be seen on the screen. Now we move on to the next chapter, another important chapter in your text, in your first block. The chapter is Quest for a Theory of Everything by Kitty Gale Ferguson. It is a beautiful profile of Stephen Hawking, a very famous mathematician and physicist who is generally hailed as the second Einstein, a very famous scientist. The title Quest for a Theory of Everything bears some significance. Quest means an arduous search, a search for something or to search for something. So it is an arduous search, a search for the theory of everything, a theory which can satisfactorily explain everything in the universe, everything that happens in the universe. So this is a theory which is much sought after by many mathematicians and physicists, many scientists. Quest for a theory of everything, a search for that most important theory which can satisfactorily explain everything that happens in the universe, everything in the universe. So there's a famous biopic of Stephen Hawking and it has the same name, The Theory of Everything. It was released in the year 2014. Then there is an expression in the chapter, Holy Grail of Science. So here I would like to explain the expression Holy Grail of Science. So what do you mean by Holy Grail? Holy Grail was the cup, chalice or platter used by Jesus Christ at the Last Supper. And there is a myth related to this. Joseph of Arimathea received the holy blood of Jesus Christ in that cup, something which has been considered as holy or sacrosanct by Christians all over the world. And in the medieval ages, there had been lot of quests in search of that holy grail, but still it remains as an elusive dream, a dream that cannot be attained, a dream that has not yet been fulfilled. So, the holy grail of science means the scientists, physicists, mathematicians are after a theory, they seek a theory, they are trying their level best to find a theory which can satisfactorily explain everything that happens in the universe and everything in the universe. But unfortunately, still it remains as an elusive dream, a dream which has not yet been fulfilled. And here, this is the significance of the expression Holy Grail. So, we often associate the expression Holy Grail of science to that theory of everything which can explain everything in the universe. So, this is the significance of that expression Holy Grail of science, and I hope now all of the students have got a clear idea of what the Holy Grail is and what is its significance in this particular chapter. As I already told you, this chapter is a beautiful profile of Stephen Hawking. In a profile, you can find some important aspects. These are the things that you have to include in a profile. So, this is one question that you can expect in your question paper, in your examination. Prepare a profile of a very famous personality. The hints will be there, so that question can be considered as a sort of blessing because all the hints are there. You have to arrange those hints in grammatically acceptable sentences and you can score maximum marks, 10% mark for that question. So, it is a sort of blessing for most of the students. So, that is one question that you can expect from this particular chapter. So, in a profile, we have to keep certain points in our view. The first one, you have to write about the childhood of that person. You have to write about the parents, the family background, write about the schooling, his education, write about his qualities which help that person to become a great human being, a successful person. If that person is no more, write about his death. So, these are some of the ideas that you have to keep in your view when you prepare a profile, and that is one question that you can expect in your final examination. A very simple, easy question for you. Now, we will go through the chapter very quickly. He was born to Frank and Isabel. His parents were not wealthy, but they gave much importance to education, and because of that they wanted their child to study in a very famous school in the heart of London called Westminster. But unfortunately, at the time of the scholarship examination, he was ill and he couldn't attend Westminster. Instead of that, he went to another school, St. Albans. As a child, he was not a prodigy. He was not a highly gifted student. But when he was just 8, he wanted to become a scientist. He wanted to pursue his studies in physics. But his parents wanted the young Stephen to pursue the field of medicine, but he found biology too imprecise. He found biology a subject without precision, lack of clarity. So, he wanted to pursue his studies in physics and mathematics, but his father found these two subjects impracticable. He found this plan impracticable because in maths there were no job opportunities except in teaching. And more than that, he wanted his son to study at his college, Oxford. So he went to Oxford. The first 1.5 years at Oxford, he felt bored and lonely, but after that, he started enjoying the campus life. He became very famous. He was very popular among his peers. He was very cheerful, buoyant, enthusiastic, and he was famous for his wit. And he applied to do a PhD at Cambridge. And the application was received on one condition, that if he got first, he would be able to do his PhD at Cambridge. But unfortunately, the result was on a borderline between first and second. So he was called for an interview, and in that interview he came up with a witty expression: if you give me first, I will go to Cambridge. If you give me second, I will remain in Oxford. I hope you will give me first. And he got first, and he went to Cambridge. The first year at Cambridge was worse than the first year at Oxford, and there were some other problems. He had fallen down once or twice without any apparent reason, and he found it very difficult to speak, and even he found it difficult to tie his shoes. So at the age of 21, he contracted a rare disease called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALD, a motor neuron disease, which disintegrates the nerve cells in your spine and brain. And as a result, you may not be able to move your body parts, and most probably the patients who contract amyotrophic lateral sclerosis die within 1 or 2 years, and doctors gave him 2 more years. So he was very shocked, he was very disturbed, and he had different dreams, confused dreams. He dreamt that he was going to be executed. And another dream was that he was going to sacrifice his life to save the lives of others. So now he decided to live a worthwhile life, to do something worthwhile for others, to lead a worthy life, to do something worthwhile for others. Before the diagnosis, he happened to meet a young girl named Jane Wilde, and that made a great difference in his life. The young girl found this disheveled young graduate boy as eccentric, highly intelligent and arrogant, but she loved his wit. After the diagnosis, he was in a disturbed state, he was shocked, and he lost his will to live. And Jane Wilde was not put off by the physical or mental condition of Stephen Hawking. She supported him. And Stephen Hawking found this young girl, even though she was very shy, but she had strong faith in God, and she was serious-minded. And she was very optimistic. And she always thought that good would come out of any adversity. So that optimism helped Stephen Hawking a lot. Both of them now thought together they would make something worthwhile. And Stephen Hawking says that has made all the difference in his life. The support of Jane Wilde helped him to scale heights. The support of Jane Wilde helped him to become the supernova of physics. So you can expect another question. Prepare a character sketch of Jane Wilde and how she helped Stephen Hawking to become the supernova of physics. When he was just 23, he married Jane Wilde, and after that he started his PhD in the university, and in sessions involving eminent scientists all over the world, he started asking questions, very penetrating questions, very striking questions, intelligent and penetrating questions, and from the campus he earned the name that he was a genius, he was another Einstein. Then in 1980 he started writing a book, A Brief History of Time. He wanted to make science understandable to even ordinary people, to non-scientists. When the revision process was going on, in 1984 he visited Switzerland. But unfortunately, he was down with pneumonia there. His condition was very serious, and the doctors gave a choice to save his life, whether to conduct a tracheotomy surgery or not. Tracheotomy surgery is to create an incision. It is a surgical procedure which makes a surgical incision in your throat, and through that opening you can breathe. But his condition was so serious and the windpipe was removed, and after that Stephen Hawking was unable to speak. After a few weeks he survived and he came back. Again he was absolutely in a dejected state, or he was in absolute dejection. He thought that he would not be able to complete his work. So a computer analyst sent him a device called equalizer, and again he started the work, started completing the work. Again he decided to complete the work. With the help of one of his students, Brian Witt, he was able to complete that work, A Brief History of Time, one of the best sellers. So after that tracheotomy surgery, future was bleak. In Jane Wilde's words, future looked very bleak, future looked hopeless or unpromising. Again, with his strong willpower, with his strong determination, he was able to overcome all these crippling aspects in his life. Finally, he emerged as a successful person, a great human being, one of the greatest scientists the world has ever seen. He has become the supernova of physics. So, if Stephen Hawking could overcome all those crippling factors, and if he could become the supernova of physics, the question is, why can't we? So this is a very important question to all the youngsters. If such a person with so many crippling aspects, with that rare disease called ALD, he couldn't move his body parts, he couldn't speak, but he became a well-known scientist in the world, and he is regarded as the second Einstein. If such a person could become the supernova of physics, if such a person could become a highly successful person, the question is, why can't we? Because we are also blessed with a tremendous potential. So this is a motivational profile which ignites that spark in most of the youngsters to work hard, to overcome all the crippling aspects in our life, and to become a successful person, to emerge as a great human being. So the questions that you can expect from this particular chapter, I have already told you, you can expect a profile, a very simple question. Another one, the role of Jane Wilde in helping Stephen Hawking to become the supernova of physics. Another question that you can expect from this particular chapter is, prepare a set of 5 questions to interview a very famous person, an eminent personality. There are 2 types of interview questions. One is to prepare a set of 4 or 5 questions to interview a person, an eminent personality. The question carries 4 or 5 marks. There you have to just prepare 4 or 5 questions to interview a famous person. And another type of interview is prepare a set of 5 questions and the possible responses, the likely responses. Most probably that question carries 6 or 7 marks. So 2 questions can be expected from that part. And when you prepare questions to interview a person, so just avoid yes or no questions. You can you can prepare WH questions, but all the questions should not be WH questions. Instead of that, you can prepare some statements, place those statements before these WH questions. That means these WH questions should be preceded by some statements to make the questions more attractive. So if the interview consists of all WH questions, the interview may not be that much interesting. In order to make it more lively, in order to make it more attractive, in order to make it more interesting, you have to precede these WH questions with some sentences. Precede the WH questions with some statements. That will make your interview more attractive, and you have to give the possible responses, the likely responses. These are some of the questions that you can expect from that chapter. So, in this session, we have discussed two beautiful chapters in the first block, I Will Fly and Quest for a Theory of Everything by Kitty Gale Ferguson. I hope that this session is useful for you. That's all for the day. Thank you.